And we are recording.
All right, good morning, everybody. We will go ahead and call the meeting to order at 10 o'clock. Roll call and introductions. Just a reminder, we do not do roll call for everyone, so we're just asking you to sign in. Daryl, if you don't mind putting that link in the chat. If you guys can go in and sign in, that would be great. Thank you, Daryl. All right, first item on the agenda this morning, project updates from Tracy. Tracy, do you have a status update on installs for us?
I do. I sent the spreadsheet over to Daryl. Bring mine up too so I can see it a little bit better. It's easier on my eyes. The top one up there, Pitkin and Vale County, they have asked for some ESInet routing changes. Vicki and Cindy, Wes, and myself have all worked together along with Intrado, and it was determined that this needs to be a project. It's not a quick fix. It can be done. So Intrado needs to kick off the project. And unfortunately, I don't have an ETA right now, but it is something that will, work in coordination with all the groups involved so that we can provide both Pitkin and Vale with what they're asking for. The call that went to the Delta PSAP, or for Delta that went to Mesa County, I did reach out to them, and I don't believe a ticket got entered into 911net, and there was something about unretrievable emails, so that we couldn't go back, or they couldn't go back and pull the information again. So what I did do is Intrado supplied them with instructions on what to do should this happen again, so that we make sure we capture that call in 911net. It's very difficult, if not impossible, to track down the information if we don't plug it into the proper tool so that both Intrado and Lumen can look and see what happens. So I know that information and process was shared, and we'll hopefully it doesn't happen again, but if it does, we'll make sure to hop on 911net and get it taken care of. The same would be for calls that occasionally are going up to Kimberly that should be in Denver. Vicki is still working on that and trying to figure out what's happening. Checking 911net tickets is necessary. She was able to get access to the tool, which makes it a little easier for us to go in and do some investigation along with Intrado. Schreiber Air Force Base, Ken has mentioned before, and I'm sure he can continue to mention it, but they are looking at a funding issue. So until that gets taken care of, there's not a whole lot we can do. They didn't realize or didn't know that this was something they would start being billed for. So that's a complete funding issue. As far as Cheyenne Mountain to El Paso, we do have approval for a circuit to be put into place there. Last time we chatted, Ken, I didn't have a date. Do you have a date? I think he was hopping on the call. I know it's been approved. We just don't have a date that it will be put into place. And I don't have any other items listed on the tracker as issues, but if there are PSAPs on the line that have something that myself and the team should be looking into that is not on here, let me know what that might be.
Lita, go ahead. Kimberly's at you.
I'm sorry. I don't know why I defaulted to my generic one, so I apologize. I do have a couple of items, and I don't know if you want me to bring them up now. I've not reported them over to Lumen. So Tina, do you want me to bring them up now, or do you want me just to wait until open business? Because I also failed to send them to you.
No, now is fine.
Okay, so, and I'm not saying that this is part of our ESInet. In fact, I don't think it really is, but we are going to need some help with it, and it has to do with wireless calls that are roaming are showing up as NSI phone calls. And everyone may be aware of that, but we have this uptick in them, and we're not quite sure what's going on and if it has anything to do with the way these calls are entering in the network from a roaming perspective. But the routing fine, it's just the display on them is they're showing up as NSI phones, and we have a huge concern because of the number. So we have like a 30% increase over the last month. So from a Lumen perspective, once I get my hands around this a little bit more, I'll be letting you guys know in case we have a network issue we want to look at between Intrado, carriers, and Lumen.
Okay.
I think generally speaking, the location and class of service
display is a pass-through from the wireless carrier's perspective, but let's get the more information. We'll look into it and make sure I'm not making that up.
Yeah, I don't, it's just really odd. And so just wanted to let everyone be aware of that. And I am speaking with wireless carriers about it, and we'll see if we can't get to the bottom of what the issue is.
Okay.
Thank you.
You have a comment about that?
Just a question. Kimberly, are you seeing it primarily from one carrier or is it all carriers?
Unfortunately, it's all carriers and it's throughout my entire county. So we haven't been able to isolate it with a carrier or even a tower. And again, this started just a couple of months ago with active service on 911 wireless calls, routing correctly, but showing up as NSI phones. So it's new. We don't have any new service being deployed. It's not tied to our T-Mobile spatial call routing or the AT&T deployment. It really just, it's all of these carriers.
Thank you. Do you think it would be worthwhile asking over the statewide email list if anybody else is noticing this? Maybe we can put together a pattern.
You know, we can if you want to now, or we can wait until I have my meeting with the wireless carriers next week, because I want to dive into it and get some information too. So whatever this group would prefer, if we want to start a little inquiry around the state, we can do that.
Does anybody else have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that might be a good idea, because maybe Kimberly can take that information with her to the meeting if we determine it is a larger issue.
Okay, I'll type up an email and I'll get it over to you, Tina, then you guys can push it out.
Okay, that sounds good. Mandy, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that putting it out is a good idea, because I know my staff might not have recognized that the alley display is displaying something that's inaccurate if the routing is accurate. So it might be a bigger problem or a bigger concern that just hasn't been identified, and the group up there is just better about identifying those things.
And for this group too, what's also really bizarre is that, as we know, NSI phones will show up in Rapid SOS. These calls aren't showing up in Rapid SOS either. And so we've been diving into them from a carrier perspective, trying to take a look at what we have visibility into in the network, but they're not showing up in Rapid SOS. Valid service, the only common element we have found working with Intrado and with Comtech, because we have to look at all the Verizon stuff with Comtech, has been they're all roaming in the wireless network. So very bizarre.
Okay.
I'll include that in my email.
Okay, thank you, Kimberly. Does anybody else have any comments or questions about that? Okay, Kimberly, did you have anything else that you wanted to discuss?
I just had one other item, but I can wait until after we're through issues.
Okay, that sounds good. Are there any other PSAPs or authorities on that believe you should have something on the tracker? All right, perfect. Tracy, is there anything else that you need to cover?
Not as far as the tracker goes. I see you have the Huerfano County down there.
Yeah.
I think that might be coming up. That would be the only other item that we have some discussion around.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. We will go ahead and move on to old business, the tariff amendment filing for ECATS. Daryl?
I don't know if I missed it. Did we discuss what the status of Shriver is, if there's been any movement with that?
Yeah, she said it's a pending a funding issue.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Daryl, did you want to cover the tariff amendment filing?
Sure. Just to give a quick update on where that is. So I think most everyone is probably aware Lumen filed an amendment to their ESInet tariff to include ECATS as a service, which also changed the pricing in their proposed tariff amendment. Those tariff amendments have been suspended by the commission pending a hearing. And there was a call for comments to be filed as well as interventions. No hearing has been scheduled yet. I'm going to follow up with the administrative law judges by the end of this week to find out which judge has been assigned to this. And as soon as we have a hearing date, I'll let everybody know. But as of right now, I don't have any further information to provide.
Okay, thanks, Daryl. Does anybody have any questions for Daryl about that? Okay. Wes, do you have any updates for us on text or spatial call routing?
No, that's really in the context of what Tim will be following up with after the ECATs, still leaving that open on those two items. I do anticipate, of course, the GIS will be the spatial routing is a bit more complex, and that's going to be something to take a look at for down the road. But the text, I think that we're optimistic that we can get something definitive for everybody to look at, and Tim will be filing that in short order.
Okay, thank you, Wes. Kimberly?
So Wes, I just had a question just because I'm not aware, maybe other folks on this call is aware. So from a spatial call routing, right now the carriers are accomplishing it based on just PSAP boundaries. So just PSAP boundaries, then the latitude, longitude of the location of the caller from their wireless device, and it's being routed using that PSAP boundary on file with Intrado and Comtech. So the spatial call routing, as you guys are looking into this filing, as you're developing it, what elements are you pulling into it?
Well, Rich, yeah,
you want
good question. Rich, do you want to kind of perhaps more eloquently address that question?
Sure. So it involves a couple different things, and if I don't touch on what you're looking for, ask me to clarify. So a whole bunch of different things. So yes, the wireless PSAP GIS routing today is occurring outside the next generation core services in the ESInet. With the spatial call routing, we will work to put in the process. We would work to put in the process and procedures in place for the GIS authority for the specific region, whether it's city, county, or other region, to put in the processes for that GIS authority to update their specific GIS layers. So that would include police, fire, EMS. It would include their PSAP boundary layer. We'd also take that information, the road center lines and address points. So we take that information and revalidate not just the wireless when it comes in, but also the wireline and VoIP. So anything that's built in our location database, we then use the county street center line and address point information to associate a latitude and longitude to it. The additional feature functionality comes along with that is our additional policy routing functionality. So you can do GIS-based routing for special events, for unique scenarios. If you had a parade or a football game, you could put in a special GIS boundary and have it route separately for that. So really, it moves that decision making from the external source. At this point, the wireless carriers, they'll still make that decision, but once they send it into the system, the wireless calls will be reevaluated, see if there's any additional GIS spatial rules in effect. It'll also take into account all the wireline, CLEC, VoIP traffic. So at that point, we're using the GIS authority approved information within our own system to make the GIS routing, the initial GIS routing decisions, and the alternate default routing GIS routing decision. Does that pretty much cover it, or did you have some more specific questions?
No, that was really helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, and that part of that is that spatial database, if you remember. So what we traditionally in trials have called our EGBMS, but it's the web portal for the GIS authorities to update real-time their GIS information, either all of the GIS information in layers or specific boundaries, street center lines, address points. So that's all part of this process too.
So then I will assume, as you guys are developing the spatial call routing tariff, all of those deliverables will be spec'd out in that tariff document. So they're being developed and incorporated in that document. Okay.
Yep, correct. Yep. It'll have end-to-end what what additional has to be provided. Expectations on both sides of from a GIS authority perspective as well as a Lumen and Entrada perspective of what's being provided as part of that spatial routing. And spatial routing, just for the team, can cover two things. It can cover if the PSAP is ready to move to I3, it'll cover that. So we'll work to convert the PSAP to I3 messaging, the list ABR queries, the PITA flow, all that good stuff with I3. But if the PSAP isn't or doesn't want to change out their infrastructure just yet, we can still do spatial call routing and do what I would call the old-fashioned delivery. Either I forget if we're doing, I think we're doing a little CAM in Colorado, but also RFAI. So we have the ability that if the PSAP isn't ready or doesn't want to change out the protocol or the equipment on the PSAP side yet, as long as they provide the GIS information in the proper formats, we can still do GIS spatial routing, but deliver as we are today. So a couple different options there. And just for everyone's benefit on this call, this is already deployed a whole bunch. It's all already proven out. All of this is live in our environment today.
All right, Matt, I see that you have your hand up. Do you have a question?
More of a statement. So I think a short way to describe the GIS data needed for what Richard was describing was to adhere to the NENA NG911 GIS data model. And version 2 of that data model was just released by NENA. You can download it from their standards webpage. They don't yet have amended GIS template files ready, but version 2 of the data model is now out.
And as part of this, too, just for you, Matt, I'm not sure if you've seen it or not, we have created multiple pieces of documentation to give the GIS authorities. One of those is called the GIS Roles and Responsibilities document. So it understands what the GIS authority is responsible for, the formatting, what's expected. It refers back to the NENA spec quite a bit. But that's already developed, and we've been working that and fine-tuning it over the last 6 years since we've been deploying.
I know we've talked about those. I don't know that I've seen them yet.
Okay, I'll work internally. I don't think there's any reason why we couldn't show them to you now, even though it's not part of the tariff yet. But let me make sure I can, Matt, and I can get it out to you if you're interested.
Please. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Does anybody else have any questions about spatial call routing? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to our next item on the agenda. Tracy, do you have an update on Huerfano County?
Yes and no. I did reach out to Brittany, and she put me in contact with Ray, who is on site at the PSAP, and I've been going back and forth with Ray. He isn't sure how to go in and make the change from 8 to 10 digits, because I did confirm with Entrado as of the end of September, they are not bidding the 10 digits. I also confirmed just on a call right before this that there are only 9 numbers left in the 720 area code, and then the new area code is going to start being released. So that's the 983. Huerfano County will not be able to accept that the way they're set up now. I do have a technical resource who did this for Lumen at several other locations. He's familiar with the Vesta equipment and sent some diagrams and instructions over to the PSAP. And I'm waiting to hear from them if they were able to follow the instructions and go in and make that change. Wes has also, recommended we can reach out to see if there's a way to send someone from Lumen out there that knows how to do it. They're a very rural area. We don't have a lot of people close by, but it is kind of a sense of urgency for us now, especially only having 9 numbers left in the 720 area code. We anticipate by the end of the year or early January that we're going to start releasing that new area code. So I am going to reach out to our technicians internally and see if there is somebody that we can get out there, log in, and make the change that has done it before, because I don't think the knowledge is there. They don't know how to do it.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Just let me know what I can do to help. I think it would be really great if we could get somebody out there just to assist them and show that support so we can get it done, since like you said, we are so close to start using that new area code.
Yeah, I think it's become a little more urgent right now that we got the update on how many numbers are left, and you know, Wes and I need to just track someone down that can help them.
Okay. Is there anybody on from Huerfano County? Okay.
Yeah, this is Ray. I'm here.
Hey, Ray.
How are you doing?
Good. I just sent you an email. I still don't know how to go into the system and get this fixed, but if we can get this fixed as soon as possible, that'd be awesome.
Okay, so did you get the instructions from Vince? And he's done it a million times. They don't make sense to me either. So
Yeah, I got a screenshot
okay.
of something, but I'm not quite sure where this is a screenshot from, if that makes sense.
I'm going to reach out to him and also his management team to see how we can get someone out there to help you guys.
Excellent. Thank you.
You bet.
And Ray, I'll send you my contact information. If there's anything that you need from me, just let me know and we can help out in any way that we can.
Great. Thank you.
Yep, of course. Tracy, anything else on the overlay or
Just that DIA is kind of still in the same situation. I know Wes is reaching out to them on some other issues, so he was going to bring this up. They are the other one that is still only bidding 8. They have the old Zetron equipment out there. They're self-managed, so it's really hard for us to go in and help them because it's not something that Lumen manages from a CPE standpoint. So I've reached out to a couple people there, just haven't gotten any information back. So I know Wes has some other issues that he's talking to them about, and he was going to try to bring this up as well.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing that, Wes.
Yep, glad to do it.
Does anybody else on the call have any questions about the 10-digit dialing? All right, the next item on the agenda, I know Kathy is not on the call today. Daryl, do you know if we have an update about, or Tracy, the 911 transfers for 988?
I think Vicky on Wes. Let's see. I thought Vicky had provided an update, but I'm not sure if what that was. Let me look and see if I can find it.
She sent an email on that over to Arapahoe County, correct, to Kathy? I think I saw that 4 or 5 days ago, something like that.
Yeah, it says Vicky's answered the questions.
The net of that is that Vicky did get with Entrado on ways to make that transfer, and that they're working on that. Actually, we're coordinating that in some other states as well. So it might not be as seamless as what we'd like nowadays, but it's a work in process. She had a concrete technical reply from Entrado. I thought she was going to be on this call, so we'd have to go back. We can update. Tina, what would you like to do? Can we just send something that we can update here in a general sense, and you could broadcast it out? Or how would you like to handle it?
Yeah, that's fine, Wes. If I know, like I said, Kathy is out, so if you want to just send that to me, we can get it out to the rest of the members.
Will do.
Thanks, Wes. All right. I don't have anything under new business. Is there anything that anybody would like to bring up?
Hi, Tina, I have an item.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm just having issues with the Lumen knock when we have problems we need to report. And the issues have to do with time on hold, responsiveness, being able to reach them for items. I would say if you're calling the knock, it's probably more than likely critical. So I've asked Daryl to open up a outage proceeding so we can work through that from an outage committee perspective. But if there's other people that have experienced extensive delays, communications from the Lumen NOC. I'd love to know about it, and we'll also give you the information about the outage too. Once Daryl gets that opened up, because it's a problem I don't think is just isolated to this one day or this one event that we experienced. We've had repeated issues trying to get somebody on the NOC to not just place us on hold, but to go through the whole call process with us, get information, etc. So I just wanted to let everybody know that we are going that direction to talk about NOC issues as relates to 911.
Hey, Kimberly, this is Tina. I'll go ahead and send you the stuff we have documented. We had what we thought was a minor outage in the alt area a couple of weeks ago, and we were on hold for 50 minutes. So I'll send that to you.
Okay. Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
And just so everyone understands, that's going to be one of the outage investigations through the outage committee. So if you're on the outage committee, you'll automatically get that. If you're not and would like to be included in that, let me know.
All right. Does anybody else have any other new business items they would like to discuss? I don't know if you guys saw the comment that Bruce entered, but it says Lumen presented an overview of the NOC issues and some of their plans to remedy the situation that was presented at the Oregon conference. So that's good. At least they recognize. All right. We'll move on to open discussion. The first one is concerns from any authorities or PSAPs to Lumen. Does anybody on the call have anything that they would like to address at this time? Okay, and the reverse, Lumen, anything for the PSAPs? Okay. And finally, on to public comment. Anybody that is on the call that is a non-voting member, this is your time to provide any items for us to consider or discuss. All right, anything else for the good of the order before we adjourn? All right, thank you everybody for being here and contributing. We are adjourned at 10:28. Have a great day.
Thanks, Tina.
Good folks.